Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are delighted to share with you different stories of love and betrayal from around the world. So let's begin our story journey today. The Sydney Harbor Bridge gleamed golden in the twilight under the setting sun. Thaddeus stood on the terrace of his home on the hillside of Balmain, overlooking the city. His phone vibrated. It was a text from his wife Vivian. "Working late tonight. Don't wait for dinner." This was already the 8th time this month. Thaddeus put down his phone, his gaze falling on a construction site not far away. It was a medium-sized residential project built by his company, and the work was progressing smoothly. On the surface, he ran a modest construction company, barely staying afloat in Australia's competitive real estate market. But few knew that 15 years ago, through precise judgment, he had quietly acquired large tracts of land in key areas of Sydney. Today, landmark buildings stood on that land, and the true owner, hidden behind complex shareholding structures, never appeared in any public documents. "Dad, I'm going out." His son Elliot's voice interrupted his thoughts. The 16-year-old boy was wearing new designer sportswear, a gift from Vivian last week. Thaddeus remembered warning his wife not to spoil the child too much, but Vivian had simply scoffed. "With what little you earn, you want to limit our son's quality of life." "Where to?" Thaddeus asked. "Uncle Donovan invited me to see his new design studio," Elliot said excitedly. "He says they have the most advanced VR design systems. It's super cool." Donovan, that interior designer who had been appearing frequently in their lives recently. Thaddeus nodded thoughtfully. "Come back early." Looking at his son's retreating figure, Thaddeus's gaze grew deep. 3 months ago, when Vivian first mentioned Donovan at dinner, her tone carried unmistakable admiration. "He's really talented, just returned from overseas, bringing back many new ideas." At that time, Thaddeus had paid little attention. He was busy handling the acquisition of a secret project in Darling Harbour, an office building soon to be auctioned, in an excellent location. Through complex shareholding arrangements, he planned to participate in the bidding under the name of an offshore company. Until one deep night 2 months ago, when Thaddeus finished a video conference with Hong Kong partners early and overheard Vivian's phone conversation in the study. She lowered her voice, but that intimate tone would fool no one. "I miss you too. He's been busy with that project lately, rarely home." "Yes, I got that draft tender." The next day, Thaddeus had his most trusted assistant Orson, the general manager of the property group where he hid his identity, investigate Donovan's background. "Boss," Orson placed a thick file in front of Thaddeus. "This Donovan Pierce, on the surface, does seem to have some talent. Design masters from Milan Polytechnic, worked in several well-known firms. But deeper investigation reveals his financial situation is a disaster." Thaddeus flipped through the documents. "Continue." His design studio was established last year. Startup funds came from several personal loans with frighteningly high interest rates. He desperately needs a big project to turn things around. And moreover, Orson paused. "He's been frequently contacting several developers, inquiring about project information, including our company's luxury apartment project." What interested Thaddeus more was another piece of information. Donovan was extremely active on social media, constantly flaunting a luxurious lifestyle, high-end restaurants, luxury cars, designer clothing. But Orson's investigation showed it was all a carefully crafted illusion. The Ferrari was rented, restaurant bills often went unpaid, and he hadn't paid his studio rent for 3 months. "He's playing a dangerous game," Orson said, "using borrowed money to maintain a glossy appearance, hoping to hook a big fish." And clearly, Vivian was one of his targets. No, to be precise, through Vivian, he aimed to get close to Thaddeus's company. Thaddeus began to notice the clues at home. Vivian had indeed changed. She started frequenting high-end beauty salons in Double Bay, getting facials and spa treatments every week. Credit card statements showed a sharp rise in her spending at Westfield's Sydney Shopping Center. Gucci handbags, Prada shoes, Cartier jewelry. The atmosphere at home was also subtly changing. Vivian no longer cared about Thaddeus's work, but instead constantly brought up Donovan's success in passing. "You know what?" Vivian said excitedly at dinner one day. "Donovan just landed a Mossman Mansion renovation project. The client is a tech company CEO. He says this project will earn him at least $2 million once it's completed." Thaddeus responded impassively. "Is that so?" Sounds good. He really has vision, Vivian continued. Unlike some people who are content with a small company. In this era, one must dare to take risks, dare to innovate. Elliot chimed in from the side. Yeah, Dad. Uncle Donovan says the future belongs to those who dare to break through. Thaddeus noticed Vivian and Elliot exchanged a glance. Evidently, they had been discussing this topic behind his back. A few days later, while Thaddeus was handling documents in his study, he heard Donovan's voice from the living room. He was chatting with Elliot, his voice full of allure. Look, Elliot, what's the key to success? It's vision, it's courage. Your dad is a good man, but he's too conservative. In this era, being conservative means falling behind. But Dad's company is doing quite well, isn't it? Elliot hesitated. Well, Donovan laughed. Do you know what real success looks like? Next time I'll take you to see my friend's yacht. That's what life should be. Your dad's little company. Its annual profits wouldn't be enough to buy a decent yacht. Thaddeus listened behind the door, a cold smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. He took out his phone and sent Orson a message. Activate Plan B. The so-called Plan B was a complete evidence collection scheme that Thaddeus had prepared in advance. As a successful businessman, he never fought unprepared. First, he installed a legal security system in his home. Australian law allows surveillance devices to be installed in private residences, as long as they don't infringe on others' privacy. Thaddeus hired a professional security company to install cameras with audio recording functions in public areas like the living room and study. Second, he had his company's IT department strengthen network security measures, setting access logs for all sensitive files. If anyone tried to copy or transmit these files, the system would immediately leave a trace. Sure enough, network logs soon showed anomalies. Vivian's account accessed the company's system late at night, viewing and downloading bid proposals and financial reports for multiple projects. Among them was detailed information about the luxury apartment project that Donovan had been coveting. Through the home surveillance system, Thaddeus gathered more evidence. The phone conversations between Vivian and Donovan became increasingly explicit. Darling, did you get that document? Donovan asked on the phone. Got it, but Thaddeus has been acting a bit strange lately. I need to be careful, Vivian answered. Don't worry, that type of man only knows how to work hard without looking up. Once we get this project, you can confront him. Then, I'll give you a real life. I can't wait. Yesterday I saw a sea view apartment in Darling Point. Do you think we could? Thaddeus turned off the recording, his gaze turning icy. The betrayal was no longer just an emotional issue, but involved commercial secrets. In Australia, this behavior was enough to ensure Vivian would get nothing in a divorce suit. He called his lawyer. Nathaniel, I need you to prepare some documents. What type of documents? Divorce agreement and a lawsuit for commercial espionage. Time quickly arrived at Thaddeus's 45th birthday. Vivian suggested holding a party at home, inviting friends and family. Her enthusiasm struck Thaddeus as ironic. This woman was already impatient to publicly humiliate him. The week before the birthday, the frequency of Donovan's visits increased noticeably. The three of them, Vivian, Donovan, and Elliot, often conspired in the living room. Thaddeus pretended to work overtime, but was actually observing them from his study through the surveillance system. This is a perfect opportunity, Donovan said. Since we'll have to confront him sooner or later, why not on his birthday? In front of everyone. Let him know who the real winner is. Vivian hesitated. Won't that be too much? Too much, Donovan sneered. Think about the life he's given you all these years. Living in this old house, driving that 5-year-old car, not even willing to buy you a decent piece of jewelry. You deserve better, Vivian. Elliot chimed in. Mom, Uncle Donovan is right. Dad is really stingy. My classmates' dads all drive Porsches. Only my dad still drives that old Mercedes. Vivian was convinced. You're right. It's time to end this kind of life. Donovan smiled with satisfaction. Don't worry, once I secure that project, the first thing I'll do is buy you a Maserati. Elliot can have whatever sports car he wants. Thaddeus watched all this on the monitor, his face expressionless. He picked up the phone. Orson ready? All set, boss. All media are arranged, and the court documents are ready. Just waiting for your command. Very good. 8 o'clock the day after tomorrow. Proceed on time. The birthday party went ahead as scheduled. Vivian had invited many friends. including several wealthy ladies she met at the gym and parents from their child's school. She wanted everyone to witness this moment. The party was lavishly decorated. Vivian had hired a catering company with champagne and lobster. She wore a gown worth 5,000 Australian dollars, a gift from Donovan. In front of the mirror, she carefully touched up her makeup, a flush of excitement on her face. "You're beautiful." Donovan embraced her from behind. Vivian smiled with satisfaction. "After tonight, I'll be free." Guests arrived one after another. Thaddeus played the perfect host role, greeting everyone, pouring drinks, making small talk. No one detected the storm about to break. At dinner time, when everyone raised their glasses in toast, Elliot suddenly stood up. His face showed a strange excitement, evidently having drunk quite a bit. "I have something to say," he announced loudly. The living room quieted down, all eyes on the teenager. Elliot glanced at Donovan, who nodded slightly. He took a deep breath, his voice trembling with excitement. "Mom's new boyfriend makes 10 times more money than you." The venue fell completely silent. Guests looked at each other. Some coughed awkwardly. Others discreetly took out their phones. Vivian's face flashed surprise. Clearly, Elliot's bluntness exceeded her expectations. But alcohol and long-repressed emotions made her lose her sensibility. She stood up, raising her glass. "Since my son has said it, I'll stop pretending to. Leaving you is the wisest decision I've made in my life. Let's toast to finally finding a better life." An older guest mumbled, "What's going on here?" Someone nearby whispered, "Looks like we're in for a family drama." Donovan sat in the corner, a satisfied smile on his lips. He raised his glass, making a victory gesture. Everyone waited for Thaddeus's reaction. By common logic, he should be angry, should argue, should plead, or at least crumble. But Thaddeus simply looked calmly at the mother and son, no expression on his face. He slowly stood up, raised his glass, and drank all the red wine in one go. "Thank you all for coming today." His voice was so steady it sent chills. "I have some matters to attend to. I'll leave first." Vivian was stunned. "Thaddeus, you have nothing to say?" Thaddeus gave her a look that made her shiver. "You'll know tomorrow." With that, he took his car keys and left the house amid puzzled glances from everyone. Behind him came Donovan's triumphant laughter. "See? I told you he's a coward. Doesn't even dare to fight back." Vivian maintained her composure, but suddenly had a bad feeling. She knew Thaddeus. This man never yielded without reason. That night, Thaddeus drove to his secret office in Chatswood. This was his true command center. Only Orson and a few core members knew about this place. "Boss." Orson was already waiting. "All media have confirmed. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock they will publish simultaneously. We've also coordinated with the court. The restraining order application will be submitted immediately." Thaddeus nodded, sitting down in front of a huge screen. The screen displayed the entirety of his business empire, properties across Sydney districts, shareholdings, overseas investments. Conservative estimate, total assets exceeding 500 million Australian dollars. "How's the exclusive report for the Australian Financial Review?" "Excellent." Orson pulled up the document. "It details how you went from a small builder to become Sydney's invisible property tycoon through a series of brilliant land investments. It also specially mentions your low-key style and unique investment vision." "And the materials on Donovan?" "All evidence has been compiled. False advertising, commercial fraud, illegal obtaining of trade secrets, enough to ruin his reputation. Several suppliers he owes money to are prepared to jointly sue, demanding his studio declare bankruptcy and liquidate." Thaddeus nodded with satisfaction. "Is the legal department ready?" "The divorce agreement has been drafted. Based on Vivian's serious misconduct, including adultery and leaking business secrets, she's almost certain to get nothing of value in the division. Your main assets are in trusts established before marriage, completely protected." Late that night, Thaddeus stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the brightly lit Sydney. He recalled when he first met Vivian 20 years ago. Back then, he had just immigrated to Australia, penniless but full of energy. Vivian was his classmate at night school. They struggled together, worked hard together. When did things start to change? Perhaps when life became stable, when money was no longer an issue, when temptations began to creep in. He took out his phone and sent Elliot a message. "Son, whatever happens tomorrow, remember that Dad will always love you." The most important thing in life isn't how much you have, but what kind of person you are. Then, he turned off his phone, silently waiting for dawn to arrive. At 6 in the morning, Sydney was just waking from darkness. Vivian tossed and turned in bed. Last night's victory had kept her so excited she barely slept. She picked up her phone and sent Donovan a message. "Good morning, finally free." Donovan quickly replied, "Congratulations on getting rid of that loser. Get ready to watch the show. Today I'm going to his company to submit my proposal. That project is mine." Vivian smiled with satisfaction, getting up to walk to the window. A new life was about to begin. Donovan had promised to take her on a European vacation and buy a sea view apartment in Double Bay. She had already looked at a few online, just waiting for Donovan's project money to arrive. At 8 o'clock sharp, her dream was interrupted by the ringing phone. It was her friend Linda calling. "Vivian, have you seen the news?" Linda's voice sounded panicked. "What news?" Vivian absent-mindedly turned on the TV. "Oh my God, look at the headline of the Sydney Morning Herald." On the screen, the morning news anchor was reporting, "A major business scandal broke this morning. Well-known interior designer Donovan Pierce implicated in serious commercial fraud." The coffee cup Vivian was holding dropped to the floor, shattering into pieces. According to reports, the studio used fake credentials, plagiarized others' design proposals, and other means to try to gain business benefits. Even more shocking, Mr. Pierce is implicated in illegally obtaining trade secrets from a well-known construction company. Related evidence has been submitted to court. Vivian frantically switched channels. Every station was reporting this news. With trembling hands, she picked up her iPad and opened the Australian Financial Review website. The headline left her completely stunned. "Sydney's invisible property tycoon emerges. Thaddeus Harrington's business empire revealed." She couldn't believe her eyes. The report detailed how Thaddeus, over the past 15 years, through a series of masterful business operations, had become the actual controller of several landmark buildings in Sydney. The accompanying image showed Thaddeus standing in front of a skyscraper in Barangaroo, a Grade A office building that had been completed just last year. "Mr. Harrington's business empire far exceeds expectations," the article stated. "Through complex shareholding structures and offshore companies, he controls assets conservatively estimated at over 500 million Australian dollars. Most remarkable is that he has always maintained a low profile, using a small construction company as a cover while maneuvering behind the scenes." Vivian's phone was vibrating frantically. It was Donovan calling. "Disaster has struck." Donovan's voice was full of panic. "My account is frozen. My studio has been sealed off." "What? How can this be?" Vivian screamed. "It's Thaddeus. It must be him. Damn it. He was pretending to be poor all along." Donovan roared. "Do you know what? The lawyer just told me I might go to jail. Those pieces of evidence. How did they get all that evidence?" Vivian suddenly remembered what Thaddeus had said when he left last night. "You'll know tomorrow." "Where are you now?" she asked urgently. "I'm at the studio, but—" Noises came through the phone. "I've got to go. The creditors are here." The call disconnected. Vivian collapsed onto the floor, repeatedly dialing Donovan's number, but no one answered. The doorbell rang. Vivian stumbled to open it. It was a lawyer in a suit. "Mrs. Harrington, I'm a partner at Morris Law Firm." The lawyer handed her his card. "On behalf of Mr. Thaddeus Harrington, I'm serving you with divorce papers." The thick envelope contained not only the divorce agreement, but also abundant evidence materials, intimate photos of her and Donovan, call records, evidence of her stealing company secrets. "No, this can't be." Vivian slumped onto the sofa. The lawyer calmly said, "Mrs. Harrington, given your serious misconduct during marriage, including but not limited to adultery and assisting others in commercial espionage activities, the court is likely to rule that you can only receive the most basic living allowance." "I want half the assets," Vivian shouted hysterically. "We've been married for 20 years. "I'm afraid that's difficult." The lawyer opened a document. "According to our investigation, Mr. Harrington's main assets are held through trusts established before marriage, with complete legal protection. You have no right to divide these assets." "What about my years of contribution?" The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "You mean this?" He took out a list. "Over the past 3 years, your personal luxury goods consumption totaled over 500,000 Australian dollars, not including beauty treatments, spa, and other expenses. And as we know, Mr. Harrington's small company has an annual profit of only $300,000. Vivian was speechless. Furthermore, the lawyer continued, regarding your disclosure of company trade secrets to third parties, Mr. Harrington reserves the right to pursue criminal charges. However, considering your former marital relationship, he's willing to give you a chance. Sign this agreement. Give up all property claims, and he won't file criminal charges. Meanwhile, Donovan's situation was even worse. His studio was located in a creative park in Surrey Hills, the once stylish and modern office space now in disarray. Creditors swarmed in, suppliers, high-interest loan companies, employees with unpaid wages. Donovan Pierce. Come out, a middle-aged man shouted. You owe me $300,000 for materials. You must pay today. And my design fees, a young designer called out. 3 months and not a penny. Donovan hid in his office, peeking through the blinds at the chaos outside. His phone was inundated with debt collection calls. Most terrifying were the loan sharks. To maintain the luxurious illusion, to pursue Vivian, he had borrowed nearly $1 million in high-interest loans. Now with compound interest, it had become an astronomical figure. Boss, the police are here. His secretary ran in frantically. 2 plainclothes officers showed their credentials. Mr. Donovan Pierce, we're from the Commercial Crime Investigation Department. You're implicated in commercial fraud and illegally obtaining trade secrets. Please come with us. Wait, I can explain. Whatever you have to say it at the station. As he was led away, Donovan saw media vans parked downstairs. Reporters swarmed forward, flashbulbs popping continuously. Mr. Pierce, how do you respond to the fraud allegations? It's said your design credentials are fake. Is this true? What is your relationship with Mrs. Harrington? Donovan, head lowered, got into the police car under escort. He knew it was over for him. Elliot returned from school to find the house unusually quiet. His mother sat on the living room floor, surrounded by torn documents. Mom, what happened? He asked. Vivian looked up, eyes swollen. Your father. He tricked us all. What do you mean? Vivian laughed hysterically. He's not some small business owner. He's a billionaire. He was pretending to be poor all along, just to test us. Elliot was stunned. Just then, his phone rang. It was Thaddeus calling. Dad, Elliot, are you at home? Thaddeus's voice was as calm as ever. Yes, Mom is. I know. Son, can you come to the company? We need to talk. When Elliot arrived at his father's company, the security guard respectfully opened the door for him. Young master, the boss is waiting for you on the top floor. Young master? Elliot entered the elevator puzzled. When the elevator doors opened at the top floor, he was stunned by what he saw. This was no small company office. The entire floor had floor-to-ceiling windows with a 360-degree view of Sydney. The walls were covered with design drawings and photographs, all Sydney landmark buildings. Dad, Thaddeus turned around in his executive chair. Sit down, son. Father and son sat in silence for a moment. I'm sorry, Dad. Elliot lowered his head. What I said last night. Elliot, do you know why I concealed my identity? Thaddeus asked. Elliot shook his head. Thaddeus stood up and walked to the window. 15 years ago, when I got my first pot of gold, suddenly many friends appeared around me. They flattered me, curried favor, but I knew they weren't interested in me as a person, but in my money. He turned to face his son, so I decided to keep a low profile. I wanted to know who genuinely cared for me and who was just looking at the benefits. Mom, your mother once truly loved me. Thaddeus's voice became somber. We struggled together, suffered together. But when life became comfortable, when temptations appeared, she chose betrayal. And Donovan, a con man, an opportunist. He was never interested in your mother, but in what he thought he could get from me. Thaddeus sat back down. And you, my son, were fooled by their appearances. Elliot's tears flowed. Dad, I'm so sorry. Apologies don't help. What's important is what you learn from this. Thaddeus's tone became stern. Remember, Elliot, money can buy many things, but it can't buy sincerity. A person's character is the most valuable wealth. In the days that followed, events unfolded completely unexpectedly for Vivian. Media coverage was saturated with reports of Donovan's commercial fraud. As the investigation deepened, more dark secrets came to light. His Milan design degree was bought. His claimed experience with well-known firms also had falsified elements. Most ironic was that those successful cases he had shown Vivian were mostly plagiarized from other designers' work. The court quickly held a hearing on Donovan's fraud case. Faced with irrefutable evidence, his lawyer advised him to plead guilty for a lighter sentence. In the end, Donovan was sentenced to 3 years in prison, suspended for 5 years, and had to pay substantial compensation. But for Donovan, the real nightmare was just beginning. Loan sharks hounded him daily, debts snowballing. His personal assets were seized by the court, including the Ferrari he had rented for show. Worse still, his reputation in the design world was completely destroyed. No one wanted to hire a designer with a fraud record. As for Vivian, the divorce proceedings progressed rapidly. After reviewing all the evidence, the judge made an extremely unfavorable ruling for her. Considering the defendant's serious misconduct during marriage, the judge read the verdict, including adultery and assisting third parties in stealing trade secrets from the plaintiff's company. This court rules that the defendant can only receive a 2-bedroom apartment in Bankstown and a basic living allowance for 3 years, $3,000 per month. No, Vivian stood up shouting, "This is unfair. We have 20 years of marriage." Silence. The judge banged his gavel. The defendant's behavior seriously violates the duty of marital loyalty. This sentence has already taken into account your marriage duration. Leaving the courtroom, Vivian felt as if the sky had fallen. The Bankstown apartment was their first purchase when they married, small and old. With $3,000 monthly, in an expensive city like Sydney, she could barely maintain a basic standard of living. She tried to contact her former friends, but those who once admired her courage to pursue true love now avoided her. In high society circles, she had become a joke. "Oh, Vivian," a gym acquaintance said with fake sympathy. "I always told you there's no free lunch. Look at that Donovan. Anyone could see he was a fraud." "But didn't you say he was charming?" Vivian retorted. "Oh, I was just joking. Who would really believe a designer just back from overseas could have that much money? Seriously, leaving a billionaire husband for a con man." Vivian had heard too many such conversations. Everyone was being wise after the event, as if they had seen through everything all along. The day she moved out of the Ballman mansion, Vivian stood in the empty living room, remembering every corner that held memories with Thaddeus. 20 years of marriage ended like this. On the TV, they were still broadcasting Thaddeus's interview. Dressed in a suit, he spoke eloquently from his CBD office about his investment philosophy and future plans. The camera panned across Sydney Harbor behind him, and Vivian realized she had never really known this man. "Mr. Harrington," the reporter asked, "why did you choose this time to reveal your identity?" Thaddeus smiled slightly. "The time was right. Some things needed resolution. There are rumors that you recently experienced some personal setbacks. My private affairs I prefer not to discuss." Thaddeus's expression turned serious. "I'll just say that in this world, trust is most precious. Once lost, it's very difficult to regain." Vivian turned off the TV, tears blurring her vision. But she knew these tears held no regret, only resentment. If she had known Thaddeus was so wealthy, she would never have. But life has no if only. After moving to Bankstown, 40-year-old Vivian had to start looking for work. With no work experience, no professional skills, all she could find were service industry jobs. Eventually, she found a position as a waitress in a chain restaurant. At $25 an hour, plus tips, she could barely make ends meet. But for someone accustomed to a life of luxury, this was torment. Standing for 8 hours every day, carrying plates, cleaning tables, facing all kinds of picky customers. Once, a customer recognized her. "Isn't that Vivian Harrington?" The woman feigned surprise. "My goodness, working here?" Vivian forced a smile. "Life goes on." "Indeed. I heard your ex-husband is quite successful now. Such a pity that you—" "What would you like to order?" Vivian interrupted. The woman gave a meaningful smile, ordered a coffee, and left. Vivian knew that before long, her entire social circle would know about her situation. After work, she dragged her exhausted body back to the small apartment. Opening Instagram, her feed was full of luxury goods advertisements and friends' lavish lifestyle photos. She remembered she had once been one of them, showing off handbags, gourmet meals, travel. Now, Her closet contained only work uniforms and outdated casual clothes. Those designer bags and outfits had been awarded to Thaddeus in the divorce because they were purchased with his money. Donovan's situation was even worse. During his probation, he had to report regularly to the police and couldn't leave Sydney. Debt collectors' pursuit left him with nowhere to hide. Finally, he had to take refuge at a friend's house in the western suburbs. The design industry was completely closed to him. He tried changing his name, tried going to other cities, but in the internet age, his scandal followed him everywhere. Finally, he could only work as a laborer on construction sites. On his first day at work, the foreman laughed seeing his smooth hands. "Designer, huh? Here, carry these bricks." Under the scorching sun, Donovan lugged heavy building materials, dripping with sweat. He recalled when he used to wear fine suits and frequent high-end office buildings. Compared to his current state, his heart filled with resentment. "It's all that woman's fault," he thought bitterly. "If not for her, I would never have ended up like this." But he forgot it was he who chose the path of taking shortcuts and cheating. 3 years later, one afternoon while Vivian was working at the restaurant, a familiar figure walked in. It was Elliot, now grown into a handsome college student. "One latte, please," he said calmly, as if the person in front of him wasn't his mother but just another waitress. Vivian's hands trembled slightly. "Elliot, I was just passing by." Elliot's tone was distant. Are you well?" Vivian struggled to make her voice sound normal. "Very well. Studying business at Sydney University. Dad is grooming me to take over the family business." Is he well?" Elliot nodded. "The company grows bigger every day, recently acquired a project at Circular Quay." He paused. "He also has a new girlfriend, an investment banking executive." Vivian's heart sank. She knew Thaddeus would soon have a new life, but hearing the news still hurt. "Mom," Elliot suddenly said, "why did you do it?" Vivian was startled. "What? Why did you betray Dad? Why did you destroy our family for a con man?" "I." Vivian's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. What could she say? That she was blinded by money? That she was vain? That she was deceived by appearances? "Never mind." Elliot shook his head. "Dad is right. Everyone must be responsible for their own choices." He stood up, leaving a $50 Australian note. "Keep the change." Watching her son walk away, Vivian's tears finally flowed. Not tears of regret, but of resentment. If time could be rewound, if she had known Thaddeus's true identity. But life has no if only. 5 years later, Thaddeus stood on the top floor of his newly acquired hotel, overlooking Sydney Harbor. This historic building in the rocks had been transformed into Sydney's most luxurious boutique hotel. "Dad, the board materials are all prepared." Elliot walked into the office. Already a university graduate, Elliot was growing rapidly under Thaddeus's guidance. He not only inherited his father's business acumen, more importantly, he learned how to judge people. "Very good." Thaddeus nodded. "Remember, no matter how successful your career becomes, never lose yourself." "I understand." Elliot looked at his father. "Dad, have you ever regretted?" Thaddeus was silent for a moment. "Regretted what?" "Not being honest with Mom earlier, perhaps." "There is no perhaps." Thaddeus turned to face his son. "Your mother's choice wasn't because I concealed my identity, but because of her inner vanity. Even if I had revealed my identity from the start, she might still have been attracted to someone with more money." Elliot nodded thoughtfully. At this moment, Thaddeus's assistant knocked and entered. "Boss, tonight's charity gala is all arranged. Ms. Penelope will accompany you." "Very good." Thaddeus adjusted his tie. Penelope Lawrence, an executive director at Morgan Stanley, was also Thaddeus's current girlfriend. She was independent, intelligent, had her own career, and most importantly, she loved Thaddeus the person, not his wealth. At the gala, Thaddeus and Penelope became the focus of attention. Media took photos, social celebrities came over to greet them. Thaddeus, a real estate tycoon, smiled. "I hear you've secured that North Shore project?" "Just lucky," Thaddeus modestly replied. "Lucky? It's your exceptional vision," the other admired. "By the way, I heard your ex-wife is now." Thaddeus frowned slightly. Penelope intervened timely. "Darling, the auction is about to start." The real estate tycoon tactfully changed the subject. Meanwhile, Vivian was working the evening shift at the restaurant. On TV, they were broadcasting news of the charity gala. she saw Thaddeus arm in arm with that elegant woman, a confident smile on his face. "Vivian, table 6 wants more." The manager's voice interrupted her thoughts. Coming, she hurried over. Life went on. The monthly allowance of $3,000 would expire in a few months, after which she would have to rely entirely on herself. At 45, she no longer had an advantage in the service industry. She began to worry about the future. And Donovan, his 5 years of probation finally ended, but his life had irreversibly changed. Prolonged physical labor and life stress had taken a toll on his body. Without health insurance, without savings, he could only queue at the public hospital for treatment. Lying in the hospital bed, he often reflected on his life. If he hadn't been so greedy, if he hadn't gotten involved with Vivian, if he had been an honest designer. But life has no if only. One Sunday morning, Thaddeus encountered Vivian while jogging at Bronte Beach. She was wearing a supermarket uniform, evidently just finishing a night shift. Their gazes briefly met, then each looked away. Vivian watched Thaddeus's athletic figure disappear down the beach walkway, mixed emotions in her heart. That man who once belonged to her was now beyond reach. She recalled seeing news online last night. Thaddeus's property empire was now valued at over $1 billion Australian dollars. Without that betrayal, half of all this would have been hers. But she quickly dismissed this thought. Not regret, just resentment. She still believed she had done nothing wrong, that the error was Thaddeus's for concealing his identity, that Donovan had deceived her. Such is the complexity of human nature. Even faced with undeniable facts, some people still find excuses for themselves. 10 years later, in a certain spring, Elliot announced major news at the company's annual meeting. The Harrington Group would build the Southern Hemisphere's tallest residential tower in Sydney. The audience applauded thunderously. As the group's new CEO, Elliot had perfectly inherited his father's business genes. More importantly, he learned a valuable lesson from his parents' failed marriage. His wife Abigail was a doctor. They met at a charity event. She didn't care about Elliot's family background, even only learning of the family's true wealth after they were engaged. "This is what I wanted," Elliot told Thaddeus. "A partner who loves me for who I am." Thaddeus nodded with satisfaction. His son had not repeated his mistake. Meanwhile, Vivian, now 50, still worked in the service industry, but had moved from waitressing to cleaning. With age, she found it increasingly difficult to find work. One day, she was sent to clean an office building. When she saw the company logo in the lobby, she froze. Harrington Property Group. This was Thaddeus's company headquarters. She pushed her cleaning cart, working carefully, afraid of encountering someone she knew. But fate is ironic. The elevator doors opened and Thaddeus walked out. Their gazes met, then Thaddeus walked past expressionlessly. To him, Vivian was now a stranger. Vivian lowered her head and continued mopping. She suddenly realized she might be working as a cleaner in her ex-husband's company. This irony filled her with both anger and helplessness. That night, returning home, she looked at her aged self in the mirror. Time spares no one. Her former beauty no longer existed. And that man she once looked down upon had become increasingly successful and charming. But she still had no true regret. In her mind, others were always to blame. This stubbornness made her spend the rest of her life among self-imposed excuses. Donovan's ending was equally ironic. At 55, due to years of physical labor and life stress, his health began to fail. Without medical insurance, without savings, he could only queue at the public hospital. In his hospital bed, he often thought about his life. If he hadn't been so greedy, if he hadn't gotten involved with Vivian, if he had honestly done design work. But life has no if only. At the story's end, Thaddeus stood in his new office, at the top of Sydney's tallest building. The entire city stretched out beneath him, the Harbour Bridge and Opera House in full view. His empire continued to expand, but he never forgot the lesson from 20 years ago. On his desk was a photo frame with him, his current wife Penelope, and Elliot's family. This was his true wealth, a family built on trust and sincerity. As for Vivian and Donovan, they continued to struggle on their respective life paths. No redemption, no forgiveness, only the consequences of their choices. Because in reality, the price of betrayal is often so cruel and prolonged. When trust breaks, when true feelings are trampled, some things can never return. Everyone must pay the price for their choices. and this price sometimes takes a lifetime to repay. If this story has resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content. See you in our next story.